Thank you for joining us today for our webinar on Tackling the Data Dilemma. I'm your host today, Bree Kelly, and I welcome you to contact Janet or I after the webinar with additional information. We've muted all participants, but I'll ask that you also mute your line since headphones and other devices sometimes cause static. We've activated the chat, so please feel free to ask questions and we'll address those at the end. Our presenter today is Janet Dorencott. Janet has over 20 years of experience in the technology space. She's worked for a network protocol and analyzing company, a database company, and co-founded Relational Solutions in 1996. Relational Solutions has been implementing data warehouses and business intelligence solutions since its inception and focuses on the consumer goods industry. We have developed applications including POSmart, TradeSmart, and BlueSky that you'll learn more about today. We are recognized as leaders in the data integration, business intelligence, and analysis space, and have been involved in over 200 business intelligence projects. With that, I'll turn it over to Janet.
Thanks, Bree. We only have a half an hour today, so we're going to go through a very quick presentation and a very quick overview of our company background. But the agenda today and what we want to accomplish is understanding disparate data, the business benefits of integrating that disparate data with internal data, so we'll look at some reports and business value out of that data, and establishing a roadmap for success. So a little bit of background. Bree mentioned that we started the company back in 1996. We started it initially as a data warehouse consulting company and business intelligence. We became known for our expertise in integration of data, and over the years we started focusing specifically on the consumer goods industry due to the issues related to integrating point-of-sale data and other outside data sources that consumer goods manufacturers had unique to them. So we have our POSmart architecture that we developed back in the late 90s, and today we have a complete end-to-end solution that includes not only the integration, the cleansing and validation, the data model, and the business intelligence user interface, but also the reports and the processes designed to integrate and present that information back to the end users. So we're coupling both the industry expertise along with the IT expertise to give you an architecture that's going to grow and change with your business. Over the past few years, Infosys, Teradata, IBM, and SAP all recommend our solution and all have a relationship with us in part of their offerings as well. I'll show you a couple of examples of that, but overall, I think we want to keep the company background brief so we can get into the actual presentation of the application. In addition, these are some of our CPG customers, and what you'll notice about our customer base is we don't just focus on companies who sell through chain drugstores. We integrate data based on any data type. So whether you're a company selling through your own stores or whether you're selling through food, drug, mass, specialty stores, C-stores, we can integrate all of those different data types. So new data sources in the 80s used to be ERP systems. They spend all sorts of time, and we spend all sorts of time trying to integrate the old mainframe systems with new data sources like Oracle and SAP's ERP system and so forth. Then came store data from third parties, and then POS that started coming directly from retailers. Today we have data from social media sites, mobile devices, the web, as well as news sources from retailers and third-party vendors. The Omni-Channel has created an entirely new data dilemma for customers, and it doesn't just describe the various channels when we talk about the Omni-Channel. It's much broader than that. It's what you can be selling. It includes the customer experience associated with that sale. It includes the selling price, the venue, the payment experience, your customer services, and your interaction overall with the customer. In a recent interview from CGT, the average marketing director believes marketing has changed more in the past 2 years than it has in the past 50 years. So today, with online shoppers growing every year, the Omni-Channel includes traditional and modern forms of purchases. Traditional forms of purchases are generally referred to as in-store purchases, meaning a customer buys a product at a brick-and-mortar store. But shopping behavior has also evolved. With 83% of consumers making purchases online, the Omni-Channel is in full play. Consumers have a lot of different options. Buying today is digital, it's mobile, it's in person, it's also heavily influenced by social. Consumers can shop at a store, on their phone while they're in the store. They also shop on their tablets, at a kiosk, through a catalog. Even gaming devices allow shopping. They're using their QR code scanners to jump right to your website and learn more about the products before purchasing. They're researching opinions. They're getting ideas from Pinterest. The Omni-Channel is a rapid evolution of the way people buy, and it's very disruptive. Retailers and CPG companies are frantically playing catch-up just to try and understand and to get their items noticed. Some companies actually don't understand the importance of the Omni-Channel yet, and those are the companies who will be leapfrogged by their competition. We're seeing it happening already. You've heard of the phrase SOMOLO, that stands for social, mobile, and local, and it's the way customers are buying today. And companies wonder, why are people buying online? Why are our retail stores having such poor sales compared to our online? Well, McKinsey recently did an interview, and they found that 73% of consumers find that they're shopping online for time-saving reasons. Also, it's easier to compare prices. You've got more variety. You've got, in some cases, less taxes. This is obviously a little bit not quite as relevant as it was a few months ago, but in some cases there were less taxes before they implemented it across the different states. The crowd, you don't have to deal with crowds. You spend less on gas, and there's a variety of other reasons. I myself hate going into grocery stores, and I hate going into department stores anymore. I do almost all of my shopping online, including for Christmas shopping. So basically, our consumers today are more informed. Today's shoppers access reviews, they can access their shipping information, they can see different messaging and more. Many retailers offer their own apps, for example. Giant Eagle, that's local here in the Midwest. They let you create your own shopping list at home and go to the store and mark off your list. And as you're going through the store, it gives you coupons at the same time. It also tells you how much you'll save on your gas due to your loyalty program. It's a very intuitive application. Another one I like is Walgreens Aisle 411. You turn it on before you go in the store, you enter what you're looking for, and it guides you directly to where those items are on the shelf. And you'd think that with a drugstore you wouldn't need something like that, but I don't necessarily care for the layout of their stores, and it does help me find things faster. Apps like Groupon and websites like Retail Me Not offer coupons that you can access by simply asking your cell phone. QR code scanners take shoppers right to the site for more information, and buyers also solicit their opinions from friends on Facebook and Twitter. Controlling your social reputation has never been more critical, and today's shoppers are also more cost sensitive. They'll hunt around for the best prices, which happens more nowadays with underemployment and in poor economic conditions. But the bottom line is the customer wants the best price, and they don't care who gets credit for it. So you better have your product available, and you better have a good understanding of what's happening on these different sites, as well as what's happening at the retailers. So with all this interaction, how do you actually know your customers? Today's customers want to be catered to. They want you to know who they are, and marketing requires you to know your customer. Targeting customers based on their persona and measuring the success of those promotions is very important today. Yet there is so much data out there, how do you actually get a handle on it? And that's the question we get from most of our customers today. So the data dilemma that exists out there is represented by this picture, where you can see a consumer goods manufacturer is getting data from their retail outlets or the retailers that they sell to, like Walmart and Walgreens and Sam's and CVS and so forth, but they're also getting data now from their e-commerce site that they might have internally. Also, they might be selling their products on Amazon. And then on top of that, you have your own internal data that you may want to integrate your sales information with to understand things like how your promotions are performing or where things in supply chain may be going wrong. But the bottom line is, all of these data sources exist, and all of this data exists out there. But analysts are spending 95% of their time just gathering and cleansing and integrating and trying to justify the numbers and where they're getting that data from. Inevitably, even when they submit their reports to management, their analysts are getting the reports differently. They're compiling them differently. They're adding things different. They're using different metrics. They're using different definitions of a sale. But the bottom line is there's a lot of inconsistency out there, and that leads to a lot of questionable decisions. And inevitably, they go back to the analyst, who then spends more time justifying where they came up with those numbers. It's a very, very tedious, cumbersome process, and we see it everywhere we go. So the requirement is to integrate and harmonize that data. So how do you do that? The idea is to streamline that whole data gathering process. It's not a simple thing to do. And if you've got IT people that are trying to do it manually, it eventually falls flat on its face because over time your data sources change, your targets change, the information your end users want change, and something needs to be changed in that code. So what we did with our application is we developed an automated process that is self-documenting where people, either your IT people or ourselves, can go in and when there are changes to the data, most of those things are handled automatically through our business rules within the application. And if something gets kicked out because it wasn't handled automatically in a process that we've already developed, then we can go in, we're automatically notified of any issue with the data. We can go in, fix that issue before end users even know that a change was made to the source system. So with our application, we streamline that whole data gathering process. Those other sources of data don't go away, but we're integrating them now. And they're still available. So if there's processes or if there's data out there that someone still needs to access from those initial reports, they can still go back to those initial or those original data sources and get access to that information. But customers are buying data from third-party vendors like Nielsen and IRI or NPD or Retail Solutions, and that data needs to be integrated with your internal master data as well as with the retailer's POS data as well. The idea is to get faster access to more reliable information. The other issue that we see occurring today, especially through the Omni-Channel, is something called coupon stacking. And the issue that occurs here is, and it's always existed as far as paper and, people might be clipping coupons from the newspaper and also they might be clipping the manufacturer's coupon and the retailer's coupon. But today they're also getting coupons that are available on the web. And people are doing this coupon stacking where it's costing the manufacturers and the retailers millions of dollars every year because there's no control over where people are using and how they're accessing coupons. There's no controls over how they can get additional discounts. On top of that, the other key issue in the Omni-Channel is internal competition. And what used to be just competition with your true competition has turned into a different issue. You've got your social or your e-commerce people competing with your traditional retail teams. There's no collaboration going on. So in order to collaborate effectively, there needs to not only be internal meetings going on and synchronized efforts, but there also has to be data integration going on so that you can see what each of the different groups are doing and what's performing effectively and what's not. So I have actually got 2 hours worth of big data presentations available on our YouTube channel, but I picked this slide to show the evolution of big data because I think this in a single slide really depicts what's happening out there. So back in the 80s, we talked about the transactional systems, the new ERP systems that were coming online. People had their manufacturing and their shipment data and their order processing data and their accounting systems. Then the evolution of data warehousing came by where you had more analytics and CRM applications. Today we have also got other outside data that includes loyalty data that comes in, syndicated data, weather trend information, demographic information. But all of this is still something called structured data. In addition to that structured data, we get the new form of big data, which is called unstructured data. That unstructured data is data that exists there out in the web. It's the QR codes that are being scanned. It's video content. It's geospatial location information. It's social chatter. It's blogs. All of these things are going on the web that never had, that we never had 12 years ago. So we need to be able to capture this information as well as your internal information to see if it's having an effect on sales and see if we can leverage those different venues for promoting our own application and our own products. So what makes using the Omni-Data so difficult? And I call it Omni-Data because, again, it's coming from so many different sources. Well, just the retailer data alone is coming in so many different formats. It can come to you through EDI. It can come to you through AS2. It can come from a retail portal like Retail Link or Partners Online. It also has so it's got varying data elements. Walmart provides a vast amount of information. Dollar General provides, has a much less variety of information available. There's also missing data. In many cases, a customer will discover that hey, you know, there was 2 hours missing from last Sunday in the data that we sent over to you, so they'll recast that data. There's UPC issues that occur. One retailer might pad the UPC digits on the front or the back or a variety of different ways. There's different levels of hierarchies and granularities and calendars. Walmart's calendar is different than the Home Depot's calendar, which is different than your internal calendar, which is different than the calendar that you might be using for Amazon. And in addition to that, you're getting it in different formats. So you might be getting a text file or a CSV file, or you may be getting some other form. You may have data internally in Oracle or Microsoft SQL Server. There's all sorts of different issues. In addition, you've got inconsistency with the weekend dates and delivery dates. So every retailer may have a different weekend date. And even the third-party data providers, they might be averaging some of the data. They might be accumulating it and sending you monthly information. Well, you may not be able to get POS directly from a retailer. You may have to buy it from IRI or Nielsen. So how do you align that data with your internal master data? These are all issues that occur in every customer that we go into. Our solution is called the Smart Solution. We call that the Smart Solution. We named POSmart many years ago. It includes our BlueSky Integration Studio. That's our data integration engine, and it's a true engine. It's not code. We were the first company in the country to leverage some of those integration engines from Informatica and DataStage, and we developed our engine much like theirs, but we specified some of the requirements that are needed for consumer goods manufacturers and the retailers. We built into it a flexible data model, and that data model leverages the data that most of our customers not only want to see, but they also can add to it other areas that might be unique to them. The data model is designed in a way that it can grow and change with your business. It leverages the different retail calendars that we have built right into the data model. And we've got something called our report matrix, and that enriches data. So we can take data from a retailer that's providing a very basic level of information, or a third-party provider, or even from Amazon, for example, that might provide you with a data feed that's very basic on what your sales are. And we can apply our measures to that basic data and create over 200 different measures that bucket the data and show year-over-year comparisons and so forth. So within our data model, we've enriched the data for our customers. And within the POSmart application, we have our control center that allows us to do some editing of the data, and we can review and see the different information through our BlueSky analytics, and I'll show you what that looks like as well. We also have our TradeSmart application. We've actually productized this recently because in most of our customers, they wanted us to be able to integrate promotion plan information with the POS over time. So the POSmart architecture is designed to grow so that over time, you're not just integrating POS data, we're also integrating some of your internal data like your shipments and your budgets and your forecasts. With TradeSmart, we had such frequent requests to integrate promotional information that we actually turned it into a full-blown application that we now call TradeSmart. And the user interface to that is our BlueSky application to do reporting and ad hoc querying and analysis. But we also have something called our PromoPro application that allows you to easily align the different promotions and even make edits to things. So if your promotion was supposed to start on January 1st and it started on January 2nd, you can make changes to it. So the POSmart application, it is an enterprise demand signal repository. It leverages the Smart Solution Hub as well as our data model. It automates the integration and cleansing of that point of sale data. It harmonizes the POS data sources, including the POS, the syndicated data, the third-party data, your master data, and other internal data sources. It aligns the different hierarchies so you get the maximum benefit out of every level of granularity. So for those retail teams that need to get down to the store and item level detail, we've got security built in that allows them to do so, but we can also roll it up, align it with your internal geographies so that management can see how your own internal geographies are doing as well as those of the different retailers. Again, our report matrix enriches that data to provide more insights, and we can leverage that POS data for other departments within the organization. Our BlueSky interface then pushes those reports out to the end users, so in a single view they can see the alerts, they can see what KPIs they may find most relevant to them, so they can see across different retailers if they're management, they can see where they're out of stock, if they're category managers or supply chain people managing that inventory. So it's really designed to present information out to the business users, but also allow them to create new reports and insights on their own. The POSmart integration engine, what it does, there's a very simplified version of it, or picture of it, but basically any new data that arrives on a nightly basis is captured and integrated and pulled into our integration engine. That engine then cleans and validates and harmonizes that data with internal data. And those orange cylinders up there represent internal data, for example, your shipments or your forecasts. But it runs it through our integration engine where we clean it up, we validate it, we then load it into our POSmart application. And when I say we clean it, we're doing things like we're cleaning up those UPC digits. We're identifying recast data. We're cleaning up that data so that when you're accessing it, that information is clean, valid, and reliable. Once that data is integrated with internal data, we're not only supporting those category management teams, we're supporting the marketing teams, forecasting teams, supply chain and logistics teams, and many more, depending on the information that we're integrating. The whole idea behind the application is there's so much information available out there today. And depending on what you want to integrate it with or what you need to pull together in certain reports, it often takes days for an analyst to make a decision to put together all that information that they need. If a decision needs to be made prior to having out all of that information gathered, there's some risk involved with making a decision. What our application does is by streamlining that data gathering process, it allows you faster access to more reliable information, therefore reducing the risk involved in making inaccurate decisions. We're increasing the amount of time you have available now, so therefore we're increasing employee productivity, and we're giving you access to more information than you had available in the past. So we're making that a much more efficient process for the business users. With our Smart Suite, our POSmart Hub, that BlueSky Integration Studio that we talked about, there's different sources of data that exist out there. Our application, as I mentioned, is accessing it, integrating it, and then loading it into the Smart Suite of applications, or the Smart Suite database, so that we can leverage that for sales analytics, promotion analytics, supply chain analytics, and so forth. So we're feeding those end users who are in need of business intelligence. But the other nice thing about the application is we can also feed that clean information into other applications that you might have. You might have a trade promotion management application like Demontra or SAP's TPM that could really benefit from having clean point of sale data. We can feed that data into other applications as well to make those implementations more successful. So this integration engine, we have a whole 1 hour, 2 hour long presentation on that if someone was interested in seeing it. It's usually IT people interested in seeing it. It's under the hood. It's what's going on to do all that cleansing and mapping and transformation there. But the key here is that it's doing a lot of very complicated things. It's transforming all of those different data types into a single data type. So you might be getting data from EDI and text files, and you might have internal Oracle data and SQL Server data, and you might want to populate in a TSO or Teradata. Well, something has to transform all that into a common data type. Something also has to map all of that retailer data to your internal master data, and somewhere along the line, something's got to be cleaning that data up. And this is all going on internally in our BlueSky Integration Studio. This is why Infosys uses our hub to integrate emerging market data. It's why IBM has it embedded in their Smarter Commerce application. It's why SAP has selected us to do their integration and cleansing of POS data for their SAP PSIM application in HANA. It's also why Teradata recommends our solution, because they know that we can populate Teradata faster than the other sources out there with a clean, reliable source of data. On top of that, there's multiple levels of security involved with the application. So end users have access only to the information relevant to their business area. Walmart teams have access to their data. If something is accidentally sent to a CVS person, that report won't populate. On the user interface side, we've got a power user tool called the Analyst. We've got our our viewer. We also have our dashboards, and we've got our mobile app as well. We even have an Excel component for those users who want to continue using Excel but access that POSmart metadata layer that is on the front end of our Smart solution. So being able to take BlueSky and do things like analyze social chatter, this is an example of that, where you've got different authors writing about you online, and we've got the ability to integrate their authority or their clout. We can take a snippet of their information, and we can even allow the end users to drill down into the detailed comments that they're making. You need to be able to manage your social reputation today. So being able to easily look at that information and your positive and negative and neutral sentiment is very important today. We can even align it with geographical information if that's available. So we can look at your social sentiment by state, for example, or by geography, or however you want to look at that. We can see where your champions are. We can see, and this is just one example of a single day of a Twitter feed, for example. We can look at whether or not that is impacting your sales. And we can even look at cross-retailer sales, so we can see the impact on cross-retailer sales. On the POS side, we can see where you're out of stock and where your potential out of stock is. We can identify and look at zero scans. And we can accurately forecast where you're out of stock and where your potential out of stocks might be. I'm going through this quickly because obviously there's only a half an hour, but anybody who's interested in seeing more information on these types of reports, we have hundreds of reports available, but these are some of the reports that are commonly requested, like the Distribution Void Management Report. We also have our TradeSmart application that leverages our smart solution architecture, and it helps you accurately measure the effectiveness of your trade promotions. The challenges there are obviously time, and obviously not just time, but the cleanliness of that data, and that's something that our smart solution addresses through that whole integration process. It incorporates not only POS, but syndicated data, forecast data, cost of goods sold, the plan data, and your forecast data, so that we can accurately determine the effectiveness and the ROI for both you and for your retailer. It is a rules-based system, and it provides you with a vast amount of information to give you more insights. And again, we have an entire presentation just on the TradeSmart application, but we're hearing a lot of customers talk about joint business planning sessions. Without integrating your cost of goods sold and your shipments, you're only going to be able to see your retailer's ROI. Manufacturers have a requirement and a need to understand their ROI as well. And these types of reports help to show not only what the retailer ROI is, but what that manufacturer ROI is as well. And in joint business planning sessions, you want to be able to show the value for both yourself as well as the retailers, because it's only valuable if it's a win-win for both companies. PromoPro is our application that allows you to accurately group different promotions, so you can see if promotions were effective and what retailers they were effective at. So you can group the different promotions, you can make edits to that information, you can determine where promotions should continue and where they should be discontinued. And then of course I mentioned our delivery platform for SAP, and this is where we're doing the data cleansing, and then we're targeting SAP's HANA and populating SAP's data model for analytics for the consumer goods POS analysis. With an enterprise solution, it supports not just category management teams, but marketing teams, logistics teams, account teams. The whole corporation should see benefit in an enterprise solution. This is not a solution that you will outgrow. There are point solutions out there that are providing reports and information on Walmart or on Target sales or on CVS sales. This would use those as data sources potentially, and maybe your account team still want to use those, and that's fine. But what this is doing is it's creating an enterprise view of your data that is integrating with your existing data warehouse. It's leveraging tools that you've already purchased, and it's providing you an architecture that you'll grow with. One of the things that we recommend is an architecture review. This is a 2 to 3 week engagement where we work with your team to understand what you currently have so that we can leverage what you currently have, and we can make recommendations on what a project plan would involve. We can phase that project plan, and we can say this is what we think is going to have the greatest impact on your business. And we'll put together a phased approach that will allow you to get initial benefit, initial fast benefit that will prove the ROI to business users, so that that architecture can then be leveraged for other business groups. We also, in the trade area, we recommend something called our roadmap. And this roadmap takes you through a series of understandings that we go through to help understand what are you currently doing for your post-promotion analytics, and how can we help you streamline that process, and where can we be more effective at helping you understand your ROI as well as the retailer's ROI. And we have a roadmap for that. So those are a couple of things that we recommend. Any of these items, you can find additional information on our YouTube channel, but we'd be happy to go through a more detailed presentation on any of these things. I realize there's a lot of information here, but these are all a part of our smart solution, or our smart suite solution, that we think CPG customers can really benefit from. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Bree to wrap up and to ask any questions. I did notice some questions coming through on the chat line, and Bree will address those.
The first question is, are standard reports generated automatically?
So standard reports are set up initially with the application, whether it's POSmart or TradeSmart. We set up the standard reports, but we also customize those for end users, and we do set them up on a scheduled basis. Now, some customers may have a need to pull a report that they would normally see on Friday on a Wednesday. They're able to do that. So there's different levels of users in our application, but we try to streamline that as much as possible.
The next question is, can we automate our custom reports?
Yes, so any reports that are created by the power user can be scheduled to run, and they can also, depending on who that power user shares that report with, they can also run those reports either just on the scheduled basis that the administrator set them up for, or they can also run them dynamically on their own outside of the scheduled basis.
How long would it take to integrate our top 3 retailers' POS with RSI data in POSmart?
So 3 retailers is not an uncommon thing right off the bat. We typically recommend you start with a couple at least, and potentially even some internal data. RSI is pretty common as well, especially if you're buying competitive data or market data. So generally it takes us a couple weeks to get the master data set up, and about 2 to 3 weeks per retailer, depending on the number of SKUs you have and so forth, and what we're trying to integrate with RSI. But in general, as a rule of thumb, we say about 2 to 3 weeks per retailer, another 2 to 3 weeks for a syndicated data provider, and about 2 to 3 weeks for your master data. We are dependent on you sometimes for those cross-reference tables, obviously, but if everything stays on track, about 2 to 3 weeks per source.
With TradeSmart, do customers see both retailer ROI as well as manufacturer ROI based on their own calendars?
Yes, so they would see in TradeSmart, one of the things that we leverage is the data model that we have for the different retail calendars. And that is a key element of our architecture, because Walmart could care less what your Q1 sales are if your fiscal year is January through December. They want to see it based on their calendar terms. For an analyst, this is extremely cumbersome if they're trying to look at other data that's just outside of Walmart. So, and that goes for any retailer. So yes, they can, and by integrating shipments and cost of goods sold, as well as the plan data and the POS consumption data, we're able to look at not only the ROI for the retailer, but also for the manufacturer. And today, with raw materials costs going up and payroll being, slashed, the next most logical space that we're seeing CPG manufacturers look for savings is in marketing. So understanding what your ROI is not only important for the manufacturer, but it's important for those joint business planning sessions that you have with the retailers too.
And the last question is, what happens if a retailer only shares basic POS data?
Well, that's common too. So a lot of times you might get an EDI 852 file which contains POS data. In most cases, it's very basic information. Some have more, some have less, and that's where the report matrix comes into play. And anybody who's interested in seeing the different measures that we calculate in our report matrix, please contact Bree, and she'll be happy to send that to you. We have over 200 measures that we calculate, and based on what we're integrating, whether it's just sales or inventory data or just other information, we can create new measures for our customers, and that's what our report matrix is really all about.
Perfect. Thank you. That wraps up the questions. We'd like to thank you all for joining us today, and we invite you to follow our Relational Solutions training blog by going onto our website at relationalsolutions.com. We also suggest you join the Demand Signal Repository Institute on LinkedIn. You can also see more training videos on our Relational Solutions YouTube channel. We ask that you follow Relational Solutions, Janet and I, on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and also connect with us on LinkedIn. Feel free to contact us by phone and email, and that information is on your screen. Thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to your participation in our next webinar, Life After Spreadsheets, next Wednesday, October 30th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you all again.